Part 1. The Fall of New Harmony. Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Endeavor, her hands gripping the metal railing until her knuckles turned white. Through the massive viewport, she watched her world die. New Harmony had been beautiful once. Just this morning, in fact. The colony sprawled across 3 continents, home to 8 million souls who had built farms and cities and dreams under alien suns. Children played in parks. Families gathered for evening meals. Artists painted landscapes that mixed Earth memories with New World wonders. Now fire rained from the sky. The Kresh warships hung in orbit like dark angels of death. They were massive things, all sharp angles and black metal, bristling with weapons that humanity had no defense against. Elena had seen the readings. Their shields could swallow anything her small fleet could throw at them. Their antimatter warheads could crack continents, and they were using them. Another strike on Sector 7. Her tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. That's where the schools were. Elena closed her eyes. She wanted to scream, to rage, to order her ships to attack even though it would be suicide. Instead, she forced herself to breathe, to think. She was responsible for 3,000 crew members across 5 ships. Getting them killed in a pointless gesture would not bring back New Harmony. All ships begin evacuation protocol, she said quietly. Target the outlying settlements first. Get as many people out as you can. The bridge crew moved with desperate efficiency. On the screens, Elena watched her ships diving into the atmosphere, their cargo bays opening to receive the fleeing colonists. Shuttles raced up from the surface, packed far beyond safe capacity. Every seat mattered. Every life counted, but they could not save them all. There were millions down there and only minutes left. The Kresh had appeared without warning 3 days ago. No declaration of war. No demands or negotiations. They had simply arrived at the edge of the system, broadcast a single message, and attacked. The message had been simple. You occupy our territory. You will leave or be removed. Humanity had settled New Harmony 40 years ago. The surveys had shown no signs of intelligent life, no claims or markers. Nothing but an empty world waiting to be born again. They had followed every rule, checked every database, respected every galactic law they knew. The Kresh did not care. Elena had learned about them in the frantic hours after the attack began. The Kresh Dominion was an empire, old and cruel, that had been expanding through this region of space for centuries. They saw other species as obstacles or resources, nothing more. Humanity's colonies sat on worlds rich in rare minerals. That made humans inconvenient. So the Kresh removed inconveniences. Commander, we're getting a transmission from the planet, her communications officer said. It's General Park, Elena's heart clenched. General Marcus Park commanded the ground forces on New Harmony. He had 4 daughters, all under the age of 10. She had attended the youngest one's birthday party just last month. Put him through. The screen flickered, showing Park's face. He was in his command bunker, but Elena could see smoke behind him. Blood ran down the side of his head from a cut above his eye. Elena, he said, and she heard the defeat in his voice. You need to go now. They're targeting the evacuation sites. Every ship that lands becomes a priority target. We're not leaving you, Marcus. Yes, you are. His face hardened. That's an order, Commander. We've got maybe 5,000 people off-world. That's 5,000 who live if you jump out now. Stay, and the Kresh will kill them too. He paused, glancing at something off-screen. My girls made it out. They're on the Rising Dawn. Make sure they get somewhere safe. Make sure they remember us. The screen went dark before Elena could respond. She stood frozen, staring at the empty display, feeling the weight of command crushing down on her shoulders. Commander? Her XO asked gently. Orders? Elena forced herself to move, to decide, to do the only thing she could do. All ships, emergency jump now. Any ship still in atmosphere, launch immediately. We leave in 2 minutes. The bridge erupted in activity. Elena watched the tactical display as her ships clawed their way out of New Harmony's gravity well. The Rising Dawn made it. The Pioneer made it. The Celestial Dream took a glancing hit from a Kresh fighter but kept moving. The Bright Hope did not make it. Elena watched the icon disappear from her screen, taking 200 crew and 600 evacuees with it. She added their names to the list of ghosts that would haunt her forever. Jump in 30 seconds, her navigator announced. On the main screen, New Harmony filled the view. Elena could see the fires from orbit now, spreading across the surface like a plague. The Kresh were not just destroying military targets. They were burning everything: farms, cities, hospitals. They wanted to ensure that humanity could never return, never rebuild. They wanted to erase every trace that humans had ever dared to call this world home. "Commander, incoming message from the Kresh flagship," communications said. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies." "Let me hear it." The voice that came through was harsh and grating, translated by the computer into flat, emotionless English. "Human vessels, this is War Master Krell of the Kresh Dominion. You have witnessed our power. New Harmony is the first. We know the locations of your other colonies: Adelaide Station, New Shanghai, Olympus Terra. All will burn unless you surrender immediately and abandon all territory in the outer sectors. You have one standard cycle to comply. There will be no negotiations. There will be no mercy. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. Elena's crew looked to her, waiting for orders, waiting for hope, waiting for something that would make sense of this nightmare. She had no answers for them. "Jump," she said quietly. Space twisted. Stars streaked. The Endeavor and her sister ships vanished into the dark between worlds, carrying their precious cargo of survivors away from the burning colonies. In the captain's ready room, Elena sat alone in the darkness. They had nowhere to go. The colonial fleet was scattered across a dozen systems, and none of them had the firepower to stand against the Kresh. Calling for help would take weeks, and even then, what could humanity do? Their species was spread thin across the stars, each colony barely able to defend itself. Her console beeped. An incoming message, heavily encrypted. The origin point made her breath catch. Earth. No one heard from Earth anymore. The homeworld had gone silent 2 centuries ago, after the environmental collapse drove humanity to the stars. The last report spoke of a dying planet poisoned and broken. Most assumed everyone left behind had perished decades ago. Elena opened the message with shaking hands. It contained only a set of coordinates in the Sol system and a single line of text. "Come home." She remembers. Elena stared at the words. Confusion and something like hope warring in her chest. Who remembered? What did it mean? But they had nowhere else to go. The Kresh would hunt them down, one colony at a time, until humanity was nothing but dust and distant memory. Earth was a ghost. A graveyard. A world long dead, but it was also calling them home. Part 2. The Silent Planet. The journey to Earth took 3 weeks through damaged jump gates and empty space. Elena spent most of that time in her ready room, staring at reports and trying not to think about New Harmony burning. 5,000 survivors crowded ships meant for half that number. They had set up temporary shelters in cargo bays and corridors. The medical teams worked around the clock, treating injuries and shock. Elena walked among them each day, trying to offer comfort she did not feel. The children were the worst. They asked questions she could not answer. When could they go home? Where were their parents? Why did the bad aliens hurt them? General Park's daughters stayed close to Elena. The oldest, Maya, was 9 years old and tried to be brave for her sisters. But Elena saw how the girl's hands shook when she thought no one was watching. She saw the way Maya flinched at sudden noises. "Will Earth really help us?" Maya asked one evening as Elena sat with them in their quarters. "I don't know, sweetheart," Elena said honestly, "but it's worth finding out." Her crew was divided about the trip. The older members remembered Earth as humanity's birthplace, though most had never seen it. The younger ones knew it only from history files, a world that humanity had broken through greed and carelessness. A cautionary tale about the dangers of forgetting that planets were not infinite. "It's been 200 years, her XO, Commander Chen, said during one of their private meetings. "Even if anyone survived, what could they possibly do to help us? They don't have ships. They don't have weapons. Hell, they probably don't even have electricity anymore." "Then why send the message?" Elena countered. Chen had no answer for that. They entered the Sol system on a Tuesday morning, ship time. Elena stood on the bridge, her heart hammering as humanity's homestar appeared on the view screen. Sensors picking up massive energy signatures, Tactical reported. Reading as weapons platforms throughout the system. Their old, Commander. Pre-Exodus design. They shouldn't still be operational. Are they targeting us? Scanning. Negative. They're active but not locked on. It's like they're waiting for something. As the Endeavor moved deeper into the system, passing Mars and the asteroid belt, Elena felt the weight of history pressing down on her. This was where humanity had been born, where they had taken their first steps into space, where they had built and dreamed and eventually destroyed. Getting close enough for visual on Earth, the navigator said, his voice tight with emotion. The planet appeared on screen, and the entire bridge fell silent. It was not dead. Earth shone like a jewel against the darkness. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. It looked healthy, alive, impossible. Run those scans again, Elena ordered. Something's wrong. The data doesn't match the historical records. Scans confirmed, Commander. Tactical said slowly. Atmosphere reads as perfectly balanced. Oxygen levels optimal. No signs of industrial pollution. Ocean pH levels normal. It's like the collapse never happened. That's impossible, Chen whispered. We have records, photographs. The oceans were dying. The air was poison. The forests were gone. But the evidence hung before them, undeniable. Earth had healed. Commander, we're being hailed, communications reported. Sources on the surface. Old Geneva coordinates. Put them through. A face appeared on screen. A woman, perhaps 50 years old, with dark skin and eyes that seemed to hold depths Elena could not name. She smiled, and it was warm but sad. Welcome home, children of Earth, the woman said. I am Keeper Sarah. We have been waiting for you. Elena found her voice. Who are you? What happened here? Come to the surface, Commander Vasquez. There is much to explain and little time. The enemies who burned your colonies will soon come here as well, but Earth is ready. She has been preparing for 200 years. The woman's eyes seemed to glow for just a moment, catching the light in a way that was not quite human. She felt them die, you know. Every human on New Harmony, every child, every dreamer, every soul, Earth felt them burn. Elena's blood ran cold. How could you possibly know about that? Keeper Sarah's smile turned fierce. Because Gaia does not forget her children, no matter how far they wander. Land, Commander. Your mother has been waiting to meet you. The transmission ended. Elena's crew stared at her, confusion and fear written across their faces. But what choice did they have? The Kresh were coming. Earth was the only hope they had left, however strange it had become. They landed in a field outside the ruins of Old Geneva. Elena led a team of 20 down the ramp, weapons ready but not drawn. Around them, nature had reclaimed the ancient city. Trees grew through buildings, vines covered streets, but it was not chaotic. It was beautiful, like a garden carefully tended. The keepers emerged from the forest. There were perhaps 50 of them, dressed in simple clothes that seemed woven from plant fibers. They moved with unusual grace, their feet barely disturbing the grass. And their eyes, all of them had that same strange depth, that sense of something ancient looking through human features. Keeper Sarah stepped forward. You have questions. Walk with us and we will show you the truth. They led Elena's team through the ruins, telling a story that seemed impossible. When humanity had poisoned Earth to the edge of death, something had happened. The planet itself, the living systems that made it breathe and bloom, had reached a threshold. And instead of dying, it had awakened. You must understand, Sarah explained as they walked. A planet is not simply rock and water. It is a system. Billions of organisms working together, creating the conditions for life. For 4 billion years, Earth has maintained this balance. She is, in a very real sense, alive. You're saying the planet is conscious? Shen asked, skepticism heavy in his voice. Not as you understand consciousness, another keeper said. An old man with white hair and those same knowing eyes. But aware, purposeful. When we pushed her too far, she responded. She adapted. She chose to survive, but only if we chose to help her. They descended into tunnels beneath the city, ancient subway systems that had been transformed into something else. The walls were covered in what looked like living circuits, glowing softly with bioluminescent light. Elena reached out to touch one, and it pulsed under her fingers, warm and somehow welcoming. Those who remained behind were given a choice, Sarah continued. Bond with Earth, become her partners, her caretakers, her voice. In return, she would heal, and she would remember. Remember what? Elena asked. Sarah stopped, turning to face her directly. Every human ever born on Earth carries a quantum signature. A connection. Weak, but there. For 200 years, Earth has been strengthening those connections. She has watched her children spread across the stars. She has felt their joy and their pain. The Keeper's expression turned hard, and when the creche burned New Harmony, she felt 8 million of her children die in fire. She felt their fear, their agony, the last thoughts of parents trying to shield their babies from the flames. Elena felt tears on her cheeks. Around her, her crew stood silent, many weeping openly. Earth is not a warship, Sarah said quietly. She is a mother, and someone hurt her children. She wants you to know that she has not forgotten how to defend herself, or how to teach others to show respect. They reached a massive chamber and Elena's breath caught. Before them stretched rows of ships, but not like any ships she had ever seen. They were organic, grown rather than built, with hulls that seemed to pulse with life. They looked like seeds waiting to sprout, like predators waiting to hunt. 200 years ago, when the last humans left Earth, they abandoned their weapons, their armies, their machines of war. Gaia took them, studied them, and she made them into something new. Sarah gestured to the living ships, something that serves life instead of death, something that will protect her children. Elena stepped forward, reaching out to touch the nearest ship. It was warm under her hand. She could feel it breathing, and somewhere deep in her mind she felt something else. A presence. Ancient and patient and absolutely furious, Earth was awake. And she remembered. "What do you need from us?" Elena asked. Sarah smiled. "Only your consent. These ships need pilots, but not just any pilots. They must bond with Gaia herself, carry her consciousness with them. It will change you. You will feel what she feels, know what she knows, but you will also gain the power to defend those who cannot defend themselves." Elena looked at her crew, at Chen, who had served with her for 10 years, at young Lieutenant Morrison, barely 25 years old, at all the faces who had trusted her to lead them. "The Kresh are coming," she said. "If we don't stop them, they'll burn every human colony, every world where our children play and dream." "How many pilots does she need?" "As many as will volunteer," Sarah replied. "But know this, once bonded, you are changed forever. You will be human, but also more. Children of Earth in ways that go beyond blood." Elena nodded slowly. She thought of New Harmony burning, of Maya's shaking hands, of the millions already dead and the billions who would die if the creche were not stopped. "Then I volunteer," she said firmly, "and I suspect I won't be alone." She was right. By nightfall, 200 crew members had stepped forward, young and old, afraid but determined, ready to become something new to save everything they loved. The bonding would begin at dawn, and Earth would teach her children how to fight. Part 3. The Awakening Arsenal. Elena stood in the center of the bonding chamber, her heart racing. Around her, 200 volunteers waited in similar chambers throughout the underground complex. Each one had said goodbye to those they loved. Each one knew they might not come back the same, or at all. Keeper Sarah stood beside Elena's chamber, her hand resting on a panel of living controls that pulsed with soft green light. "Are you ready, Commander?" Elena thought about all the questions she should ask. What would it feel like? Would she still be herself? Would it hurt? But in the end, only one thing mattered. "Will this help us stop the crash?" "Yes," Sarah said simply. "Gaia does not offer this gift lightly. You will carry her will across the stars. You will feel what she feels, and you will have access to power that sleeping humanity never imagined." "Then I'm ready." Sarah pressed her hand to the panel. The chamber filled with a soft mist that smelled like rain and flowers and growing things. Elena breathed it in and the world began to change. At first it was just warmth, pleasant like lying in sunlight, but then the warmth grew deeper, spreading through her body, reaching into her mind. Elena gasped as she felt something vast, something ancient, something that had been waiting patiently for 4 billion years. "Hello, little one," a voice whispered. Not in her ears, but in her bones, in her blood, in the spaces between her thoughts. It was not words, not really, but her mind translated it into meaning she could understand. Elena tried to speak, but no sound came out. She did not need words. The presence already knew her thoughts. "You are afraid," the voice observed. "Good. Fear means you understand the weight of what you carry, but you are also determined. You love fiercely. You will fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. These are the traits I need. What are you?" Elena thought. "I am Earth. I am the first home. I am the breath of forests and the patience of mountains. I am 4 billion years of life. learning to think, learning to choose. I am your mother and my children are burning. The mist grew thicker and suddenly Elena was not in the chamber anymore. She stood in a field on New Harmony, watching families play in the sunlight. She felt their joy, their love, their simple happiness at being alive. Then the sky turned red and fire rained down. Elena screamed as she felt them die. Not just saw but felt. 8 million connections severed in moments. Parents throwing themselves over children in futile attempts to shield them. Teachers gathering students close. Lovers holding each other as the world burned. And through it all she felt Earth's rage. A mother's fury at seeing her children murdered. The vision shifted. Elena saw other worlds. Other species. The Kresh had done this before again and again for centuries. Entire civilizations erased because they occupied territory the Dominion wanted. The galaxy knew what the Kresh were, but none were strong enough to stop them. None until now. You will be my voice. The presence said, my hand. My children scattered across the stars will need protection and I cannot reach them all. But you can. You and those who choose to bond with me. Together, we will teach the galaxy that humanity is not alone. That Earth stands with her children. Will it change me? Elena asked. Yes. You will feel what I feel. Know what I know. The connection will never fade. But you will still be Elena Vasquez. Commander, daughter, friend, protector. I do not erase. I add to, I enhance. I give you the tools to be more of what you already are. Then I accept. Elena thought firmly. The presence surged forward, and Elena felt herself dissolve and reform. Information flooded into her mind. Tactical data, ship schematics, the location of every living thing in the Sol system, the quantum signatures of every human across the galaxy, the patient rage of a living world that had watched and waited and prepared. When Elena opened her eyes, the chamber was empty of mist. But the world looked different. She could see energy patterns in the walls, feel the life pulsing through the complex, sense the other volunteers in their chambers all undergoing the same transformation, and she could feel Earth beneath her feet, aware and watching and waiting. Keeper Sarah smiled. Welcome back, sister. Elena looked at her hands. They looked the same, but when she concentrated, she could see tiny patterns of light beneath her skin. Connections. Living circuits that tied her to something far greater than herself. I can feel her, Elena whispered. She's everywhere. She always was, Sarah replied. You just couldn't hear her before. Come. Your ship is waiting. They walked through tunnels that Elena now understood were not built, but grown. Earth had reshaped herself, creating spaces and systems that blended technology with biology. Everything was alive. Everything was connected. The hangar stretched for miles beneath the surface. Row after row of living ships rested in cradles of soft earth. Keepers moved among them, tending them like gardeners tending plants, because that was exactly what they were doing. Each ship is unique, Sarah explained as they walked, grown from the consciousness of Earth and the abandoned weapons of old humanity. They have the armor of warships and the adaptability of living organisms. They can heal themselves, evolve in response to threats, and they bond with their pilots just as you have bonded with Gaia. Elena approached the ship that called to her. She knew it was hers the moment she saw it. It was larger than the others, with hull plates that shifted colors like oil on water. Weapons ports lined its surface, but they looked organic like the spines of some deep-sea creature. Her name is Verdant Fury, a voice said behind her. Elena turned to find Commander Chen approaching. His eyes held the same depth as the Keeper's now. The same connection. Around the hangar, she saw other familiar faces. Lieutenant Morrison, Chief Engineer Park, Communications Officer Davis, all changed, all awakened. You all made it through, Elena said, relief flooding through her. 200 went in, Chen replied. 200 came out. Gaia does not take lightly those who volunteer to carry her will. She makes sure we can handle it before the bond completes. Elena reached out to touch the hull of Verdant Fury. The ship responded to her presence, hull plates rippling like muscles under skin. She felt its awareness, its eagerness to fly, to fight, to protect. Through the bond with Earth, information flowed into her mind. How to fly the ship, how to use its weapons, how to merge her consciousness with its systems until pilot and vessel became one entity. It was overwhelming and perfect all at once. The Kresh are 6 days out, Sarah said quietly. Their scouts detected your arrival. They are bringing a war fleet. They believe they will find a dead world defended by refugees. Elena smiled, and there was no warmth in it. Then they are going to learn a very painful lesson about what happens when you hurt Earth's children. The next 6 days passed in frantic preparation. The bonded pilots trained with their ships, learning to move as one. Elena discovered she could sense her squadron's positions without looking, feel their intentions before they acted. They flew in patterns that should have been impossible, ships moving within meters of each other at speeds that would have meant certain death for unbonded pilots. But they were not unbonded anymore. They carried Earth's awareness with them, and through that connection they moved as a single organism. The survivors watched from observation platforms, their faces mixtures of hope and fear. Elena saw Maya there, pressed against the viewing window, watching the strange new ships dance through the sky above Earth. On the 6th day, alarms rang throughout the complex. The Kresh had arrived at the edge of the Sol system. Their war fleet consisted of 30 capital ships and over 200 smaller vessels. Enough firepower to crack planets and burn solar systems. Elena stood in the hangar, surrounded by her squadron. 200 pilots. 200 living ships. Against an empire that had crushed civilizations for centuries, she should have been terrified. Instead, she felt calm. Certain. Earth's presence hummed in the back of her mind, patient and fierce. "All pilots, board your ships," Elena ordered. "It's time to show the Kresh that Earth remembers, and that mothers do not forgive those who harm their children." The pilots moved as one, climbing into their vessels. The ships responded eagerly, hull plates shifting to create cockpits, neural interfaces extending to connect with their bonded pilots. Elena settled into verdant fury and felt the ship's consciousness merge with her own. They were separate but together. Distinct but unified, she felt the ship's hunger to fly, to fight, to defend the cradle of humanity. Through the bond, she felt Earth's voice, vast and patient and absolutely determined. "Go, my children. Teach them respect. Teach them that life is not theirs to erase. Teach them the price of making a mother angry." The ships rose from their cradles, ascending through tunnels that opened before them like flowers blooming. They burst from the surface in a wave of organic fury. 200 predators launched from the garden world they called home. The Kresh had come expecting to burn a dying planet. Instead, they had awakened something ancient, something that had spent 2 centuries preparing for this moment. The Battle of Sol was about to begin. And the galaxy would learn a new truth. You could hurt humanity's colonies. You could scatter their fleets. You could burn their worlds. But you did not touch Earth's children and walk away unpunished. Gaia remembered. And now she would teach the Kresh to remember too. Part 4. The Garden's Teeth War Master. Krell watched the sensors from his flagship's command throne, mandibles clicking with satisfaction. The Sol system hung before him like ripe fruit waiting to be plucked. One dying world, a handful of refugee ships. It would be over in minutes. "Deploy assault wings," he ordered. "Target any defensive platforms first, then the planet's population centers. I want this world sterile within the cycle." His tactical officer hesitated. "War Master, the platforms are active." "Old designs, but they appear operational." "Then destroy them." The Kresh fleet moved forward in formation, their black hulls absorbing starlight. 30 capital ships, each one capable of reducing a continent to slag, over 200 fighters and bombers. The largest fleet the Dominion had deployed in a decade, all to destroy the last remnants of a species that dared to resist. The first warning came when the platforms did not fire. "War Master, the defense grid it's scanning us. Actively targeting but holding fire." Krell's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "Unknown, War Master. It's as if they're waiting for something." That was when Earth's ships emerged from the planet's atmosphere. At first, Krell thought they were debris, organic matter caught in the planet's gravity. But then they moved with purpose, rising in a coordinated wave that spoke of intelligence and intent. "What am I looking at?" Krell demanded. His science officer worked his console frantically. "Unknown vessel types, War Master. Biosignatures mixed with technological signatures. They appear to be alive." 200 ships broke orbit and accelerated toward the Kresh fleet. They moved like living things, like hunters who had caught the scent of prey. Their hulls rippled and shifted, changing color to match the background of space. Weapons extended from their surfaces like claws emerging from sheaths. All ships battle formation, Krell ordered. Deploy fighters. Those vessels appear primitive. We will sweep them aside and proceed with the invasion. The Kresh fighters launched in swarms, black clouds of metal and fury. They had faced countless species, destroyed hundreds of fleets. They knew how space combat worked. There were patterns, tactics, rules. Earth's children did not follow rules. Elena felt the Kresh fighters coming before her sensors showed them. Through the bond, she knew their positions, their intentions, their weaknesses. And around her, she felt her squadron doing the same. All ships, free attack pattern, she ordered. Show them what happens when you threaten our home. Verdant fury surged forward, and Elena felt the ship's joy at finally being unleashed. They dove into the Kresh formation, and what followed was not a battle. It was a lesson. Kresh plasma bolts filled space with lethal light, but the Earth ships moved between them like water flowing around stones. Elena felt each shot before it fired, adjusted her course before the weapons even charged. And when the Kresh fighters tried to pursue, they found themselves chasing shadows. Verdant fury rolled and twisted through impossible maneuvers. Elena's human body could not have survived the forces involved, but she was not purely human anymore. The ship shared its strength with her, reinforced her, merged with her until she could not tell where pilot ended and vessel began. A Kresh fighter lined up for a shot. Elena smiled and thought a single command. Verdant fury extended tendrils of organic matter impossibly fast, wrapping around the enemy ship. There was a moment of struggle, and then the fighter's power system simply stopped. What? The Kresh pilot's transmission came through garbled. What are you? We are Earth's children, Elena replied. And you should not have hurt our family. The tendrils crushed the fighter like an egg. Around her, the other Earth ships were demonstrating their own abilities. Lieutenant Morrison's ship, Growing Storm, released clouds of spores that ate through Kresh shields like acid through paper. Chief Engineer Park's vessel, Deeproot, extended massive energy vines that connected enemy ships and drained their power to feed the Earth fleet. And Commander Chen's ship, Patient Wrath, simply absorbed every shot fired at it, storing the energy and redirecting it back at its attackers with interest. The Kresh fighters broke and ran within minutes, but the Earth ships pursued, relentless as time, patient as death. On his flagship, War Master Krell watched his tactical display with growing disbelief. His fighters were being destroyed or disabled without landing a single hit. These organic ships moved in ways that violated every principle of physics he understood. Capital ships, open fire, he ordered. Full bombardment. I don't care what those things are, they can't withstand antimatter warheads. The Kresh capital ships opened fire, filling space with planet-killing fury. Antimatter explosions blossomed like deadly flowers. Surely nothing could survive that. But when the light faded, the Earth ships remained. Their hulls were scarred, damaged, but already regenerating. Elena watched through Verdant Fury's sensors as her ship's wounds sealed themselves, living tissue knitting back together faster than the Kresh could target them. And she felt Earth's voice in her mind. Cold and determined, they chose antimatter. How fitting. Let us show them what life can do to weapons of annihilation. Through the bond, Elena understood. She smiled grimly and opened a channel to her squadron. All ships, Protocol Gardens feast. Make them regret bringing such wasteful weapons to our home. The Earth ships changed their formation, spreading out in a pattern that looked almost like a flower blooming. When the Kresh fired again, the ships did not dodge. They opened their hulls, extending massive organic collectors that caught the antimatter explosions and absorbed them. Krell stared in horror as the enemy ships began to glow with captured energy. They were eating his most powerful weapons, feeding on them. Growing stronger. Impossible, he whispered. But Elena knew it was not impossible. It was simply Earth, life adapting, life overcoming. Life showing that it would always find a way to turn death into growth. All ships return fire, Elena ordered. The Earth fleet released the stored energy in focused beams of pure destruction. Kresh shields failed. Hulls melted. Ships that had been built to destroy planets found themselves torn apart by their own weapons, redirected through the patient fury of a living world. 3 capital ships died in the first volley. 5 more in the second. Krell's fleet broke. Ships turned to flee, abandoning formation, abandoning discipline, abandoning everything except the primal urge to survive. But Elena and her squadron pursued. Through the bond, she felt Earth's cold determination. This could not be just a victory. It had to be a message, a warning that would echo across the galaxy. Touch humanity's colonies again and face this. Burn Earth's children, and we will burn you in return. Yet as verdant fury closed on a fleeing Kresh destroyer, Elena felt something unexpected through the bond. A hesitation. A question, how far? Earth asked. How much death to make them understand? How many must die to teach respect? Elena remembered New Harmony burning. Remembered 8 million souls crying out as fire consumed them. Part of her wanted to see every Kresh ship destroyed, wanted to pursue them to their homeworld and give them the same terror they had inflicted. But another part, the part that was still purely human, remembered something else. Remembered Maya's shaking hands. Remembered that vengeance and justice were not always the same thing. Squadron, cease fire, Elena ordered. Disable only. Do not destroy unless they continue to resist. Around her, she felt the other pilots questioning the order, felt their rage, their pain, their desire to make the Kresh suffer. But she also felt their trust, their willingness to follow her lead. The Earth ships changed tactics, using their organic weapons to disable engines and shields without destroying the Kresh vessels completely. Ships went dark, drifting helplessly but intact. Crews survived, trapped but alive. Krell's flagship tried to fight. His weapons fired desperately, uselessly against the Earth ships that surrounded him. But when verdant fury extended its tendrils and wrapped around his vessel, he knew it was over. Elena's voice came through every speaker on his ship, calm and cold and absolutely certain. War Master Krell, you came to Earth expecting to find a dead world. Instead, you found a living one. You thought humanity was alone. You were wrong. Earth stands with her children, and Earth remembers what you did to New Harmony. Krell said nothing, his mandibles frozen in shock and fear. You will return to your dominion, Elena continued. You will tell them what happened here. You will tell them that humanity is under Earth's protection, and you will tell them that if the Kresh ever harm another human colony, we will not be so merciful the second time. She paused, letting her words sink in. Gaia does not want genocide, War Master. She wants justice. She wants peace. But she will absolutely bring war if her children are threatened again. Do you understand? Yes, Krell whispered, his voice hoarse with defeat. Then go, and remember this day. Remember what happens when you make a mother angry. Verdant fury released the flagship. Around the battlefield, the other Earth ships did the same, freeing their disabled prey. The Kresh fleet limped away into the dark, leaving behind only debris and the memory of their humiliation. Elena watched them go, feeling Earth's satisfaction through the bond. The battle was won. The message was sent, but this was only the beginning. The Kresh dominion stretched across dozens of systems. They would not accept this defeat quietly. There would be more battles, more struggles. Part 5. The new Accord. 6 months after the Battle of Sol, Elena stood on the bridge of verdant fury and watched the Kresh homeworld of Kresh Tak grow larger on her view screen. Around her ship, the Earth fleet moved in perfect formation, 200 vessels that breathed and thought and carried the will of a living world. They had not come alone. Behind them, a fleet of human colony ships followed, carrying representatives from every surviving settlement. Olympus Terra, Adelaide Station, New Shanghai, all the scattered children of Earth coming together for the first time in generations. All ships report ready. Commander Chen's voice came through the comm. His ship, Patient Wrath, held position at Elena's right. The Kresh defense fleet is scrambling, but they're staying in orbit. They're not attacking. Good, Elena replied. They learned their lesson at Sol. Now we teach them the rest. Through the bond, she felt Earth's presence, calm and determined. This was not a mission of vengeance. It was a mission of change. The galaxy had operated under certain rules for too long. Rules that said the strong could destroy the weak. Rules that said conquest was acceptable. Rules that allowed species like the Kresh to burn entire civilizations without consequence. Earth intended to write new rules. The Kresh High Command's transmission came through, the translator making their clicks and whistles into flat human speech. Human fleet, you enter Dominion space in violation of galactic law. Turn back or face destruction. Elena almost laughed. After Sol, after watching their war fleet broken and scattered, they still threatened. But she understood now. The Kresh had ruled through fear for so long that they did not know how to do anything else. Time to teach them. Kresh High Command, this is Commander Elena Vasquez of Earth. We do not come to conquer. We come to offer terms. Stand down your defenses and send ambassadors to negotiate, or we will demonstrate exactly what happened to your fleet at Sol. Your choice. There was a long silence. Elena could imagine the debate raging in their command centers. Pride versus survival. The urge to fight versus the memory of watching their strongest ships disabled by organic vessels that should not exist. Finally, the transmission came. We will send ambassadors, but any act of aggression will be met with total war. Understood, Elena replied. Neither side fires first. We meet as equals, even if we both know that is not quite true anymore. The negotiations took place on a neutral station at the edge of Kresh space. Elena led the human delegation, accompanied by Keeper Sarah and representatives from each colony. The Kresh sent their High War Master, Krell, among them along with their ruling council. When Krell saw Elena, his mandibles clicked in what the translator called resignation. He had been there at Sol. He had felt his flagship wrapped in organic tendrils, helpless as a child. He knew what these humans had become. They gathered in a large chamber, humans on one side, Kresh on the other. Between them, holographic displays showed maps of territories, fleet positions, colony locations. The physical evidence of two species trying to share space without destroying each other. Elena spoke first, her voice carrying the weight of Earth's authority. For centuries, the Kresh Dominion has expanded through conquest. You have burned worlds, erased civilizations, claimed that might makes right and that the strong have no responsibility to the weak. She paused, meeting each Kresh delegate's eyes. That ends now. The High War Master, a massive Kresh with scars covering his carapace, clicked angrily. You cannot dictate terms to us. The Dominion spans 50 systems. We have armies beyond counting. And Earth has shown that numbers mean nothing against adaptation and determination, Elena countered. At Sol, your strongest fleet was defeated by 200 ships. 200? Imagine what we could do with 2,000. Or 20,000. Earth can grow her vessels as fast as forests grow trees. How many ships can you afford to lose before your empire collapses? The chamber fell silent. It was a truth the Kresh could not deny. They had built their power on technological superiority and ruthless tactics, but Earth's living ships evolved, adapted, learned from every battle. There was no winning a war of attrition against an enemy that turned every attack into fuel for growth. What are your terms? The High War Master asked finally, defeat heavy in his voice. Keeper Sarah stepped forward. Earth does not seek to destroy the Kresh. Gaia wants only for her children to be safe, and for the galaxy to understand that life is precious. All life, not just human. She gestured to the holographic maps. Here are our demands. First, the Kresh Dominion will release all conquered territories. The species you have subjugated will be freed to govern themselves. Protests erupted from the Kresh delegation, but Sarah continued calmly. Second, the Dominion will disarm to defensive levels only. You may protect your homeworld and core systems, but your war fleets will be dismantled. Third, you will accept Earth monitoring for a period of 100 standard years. Our ships will ensure you keep these terms. You ask us to castrate ourselves, the High War Master snarled. To become weak. We ask you to become civilized, Elena replied. Strong enough to defend yourselves, but not strong enough to threaten others. The galaxy has tolerated the Kresh Dominion because no one could stop you. But Earth can, and Earth will, not through conquest but through protection. We stand with the weak. We defend those who cannot defend themselves, and we will absolutely end any species that continues to operate as the Kresh have. She leaned forward, and her eyes held depths that made even the High War Master flinch. You have a choice, War Master. Accept these terms and transform the Dominion into something worthy of respect, or refuse and we will dismantle your empire ourselves. Slowly, system by system, until there is nothing left but memories and warnings about what happens when you make Earth angry. Through the bond, Elena felt Gaia's presence backing her words. The planet did not bluff. If the Kresh refused, Earth would absolutely follow through, not out of cruelty but out of necessity. The galaxy needed to learn this lesson, and the Kresh would either be the example of reform or the example of consequences. The High War Master looked at his council, at Krell, who had been there at Sol, at all the faces who knew that their empire's age of conquest was over, whether they accepted it gracefully or not. We accept your terms, he said finally. But know this, human. The galaxy will not thank you for this. Other species will see what you have done and fear you. They will call you tyrants. Conquerors wearing a mask of protection. Perhaps, Elena replied, but at least they will be alive to call us names. That is more than you gave the species you erased. The accord was signed that day, transmitted across the galaxy for all to witness. The Kresh Dominion would disarm. Conquered worlds would go free. Earth's fleet would stand watch, ensuring compliance. And the galaxy reacted exactly as the High War Master predicted. Some species rejoiced, freed from Kresh oppression. Others grew nervous, watching Earth's power with suspicion. Ambassadors arrived at Sol by the dozens, offering alliances, seeking protection, asking what humanity wanted in return. Elena stood in Earth's new orbital station, looking down at the blue-green world below, and felt the weight of their new position. They had saved humanity's colonies, stopped the Kresh, changed the balance of galactic power, but they had also become something new, something the galaxy had never seen, a species backed by their living homeworld, children who could call on their mother's power whenever they were threatened. Do you regret it? Keeper Sarah asked, standing beside her at the viewport. Elena thought about New Harmony burning, about Maya's shaking hands, about 8 million voices crying out and being silenced. She thought about all the species the Kresh had destroyed, all the ones they would have destroyed if Earth had not intervened. No, she said finally. We did what was necessary. We saved lives, changed the galaxy for the better. If other species fear us for that, then so be it. We will show them through our actions that Earth seeks only to protect, not to conquer. And if they do not believe us, Elena smiled, feeling Earth's patient presence in the back of her mind, then we will protect them anyway, whether they want it or not, because that is what mothers do. Ships continued to arrive at Sol, carrying refugees, ambassadors, traders, and those simply curious about the species that had tamed their homeworld. Earth welcomed them all, showing them gardens and forests, cities growing in harmony with nature. Technology and biology merged into something beautiful. Maya, now training as a pilot herself, watched the visitors with bright eyes. She had grown in the 6 months since New Harmony fell. The nightmares still came sometimes, but less frequently. She had found purpose in Earth's new mission, protecting others so they would never feel the fear she had felt. Commander Vasquez, Maya said one day during a training session, will there be more battles? More species like the Kresh? Elena considered lying, offering false comfort. But Maya deserved truth. Yes, she said. The galaxy is vast and not everyone will welcome change. There will be species that test our resolve. Pirates who think Earth's ships are just rumors. Empires that believe they can succeed where the Kresh failed. And we will stop them? Yes, every time. For as long as necessary. Elena put her hand on Maya's shoulder. Your father died defending New Harmony. He died protecting people who needed protection. We carry on his work,